Hello and welcome to the Digital Photo Academy. In this video, we will explore and customize the actual Photoshop workspace. So to start off, what I am going to do is quickly explain how it may, when you start off, this is how Photoshop will open, either this way or this way. So if it is this way, let me explain what this is about. So in here, you have your home button, then you have the learn button, which then allows you to look at all the tutorials, and you have a view wall. You can go look at all of them that are available. You can scroll through, select whatever tutorial you may wish to look at. Then you have your work, and you can continue going back and forth between the two. If you were working with the Lightroom and you have your Lightroom images in the cloud, you can access them through here. Now, since we are working on Photoshop CC 2021, so if you are saving your documents within the cloud space, then you can click in here and you can look at your cloud documents. If you have recently deleted some stuff, then from there it'll show up in here. So if I go to home, I can simply click on any one of these images that have been recently opened or worked on, and they will become available to me. Either I can go through here, or if I am in my home button, where now I am in the Photoshop interface, I can always go to File and say Open Recent, and it gives me a listing of the last X number of files that I had worked on. Okay, so let's say I decide that I'm going to open up this one image, and I open it up. There are distinct spaces in Photoshop. First, there's the toolbar on the left. Along with the toolbar, the next thing is the options bar at the top, and then you have the panels bar on the right. Okay, so these are the three things, and then in the middle is what is referred to as the image space or the work window, or whatever you want to call it. Starting off with the toolbar, you will notice there is these two tiny arrows at the top where my cursor is. If you click on this, you can make the toolbar into a two-panel or a two-column toolbar. Or you can simply revert back by clicking on it, and it collapses into a single column. All the same tools are still visible. Next up, you also have the ability to grab it from the top and drag it out. And when you drag it out, you have the ability to drag it wherever you want. You can also tab it to the right. So whenever you see, while you're carrying a panel, a palette, a toolbar, and you see this blue line, that implies that you can tab it there. And once again, you can move it out by clicking on this tiny little line, and it moves away. Guess what? Can I tab it all the way to the left? You bet. So I can now tab it in here as well. I can make it into a two-column or one-column or whatever I want and still move it around. So there's a lot of flexibility in how and where you wish to place any one of the things. So this is the toolbar. Next up, the menu bar at the top. So the menu bar is options that become available based on the tool choice that you make. For example, I'm currently in the very first tool, which is the Move tool. And with the Move tool, there are options of aligning it or distributing objects, and there's a bunch of other things in here. Now pay attention to what happens to the options bar at the top. If I change to another tool, so this is the rectangular marquee tool. I click on it, and suddenly all the options have changed. Similarly, as I progress through, and I'll go through, and you will notice there are different options for different tools. This is important because whenever you choose a tool, you will also potentially be choosing one of the options or multiple options and modifying things, so you must understand that. Next up, on the right hand side over here is what is known as the palettes. So Photoshop has God knows how many palettes. The important thing to recognize is that you can invoke any palette that you want at any given point in time by simply going into the menu at the top where it says Window, and you can choose whichever palette you want. Anything with a check mark is a palette which is currently active. Okay? Now, so if I decide, hey, what's this palette? Because I don't even know what it is. So you can place your cursor on it and it gives you an idea of what it is. Or you can simply drag it open by grabbing it from one corner, and the text for it will become visible to you. By the same token, in this second one over here, since I opened it up, it kind of worked. Or you can collapse everything. It depends on how much space you have and how familiar you are with these particular panels. Then you also have the ability to drag everything away and not have it dock but keep it floating. So if you click on any one and then you click back, it either opens up or collapses. Same happens with everything in here. Now the difference is, what you need to recognize is you will notice that there are very faint dark gray lines which are separating certain things. So these are groupings. If I click on this, it shows me additional panels or palettes underneath it. You always have the ability of opening it and stretching it out if you so desire. So I'm looking at multiple tabs and I can always click and collapse it. So these four were available in here. So that's what the separation is all about. So if you clicked on properties, along with it comes adjustment and libraries over here, and you can go through that. Okay. Same idea is with layer, channels, and paths. So just recognize this. Now you have the ability to actually create your own groupings or set of palettes that you may want. Since we are fundamentally, or I am fundamentally focusing on photography, based on my experience, I'm going to make certain recommendations that are relevant to photography. But at the end of the day, it is your choice of what you choose. So to start off, what I'm going to do is I'm going to go into the window menu, go into workspace, and I'll simply say reset essentials. So what it has done is it has reset it to whatever the basic was. Okay. Now at the same time, if I am talking about photography, why the heck not go into the workspace and choose photography by default? So then it says, hey, these are the photographic things that are relevant to you and whatnot. Okay. So let's see what is relevant to us. So to be able to customize, I am going to drag it out and spread things out and then put them back together. Just so there's the histogram. Histogram is very important. I want this out. Actions I do want. Absolutely yes. So I'm going to put it here. Libraries, if you're working with libraries, which means that you have online space where you have created libraries, by all means, I will continue adding that. Then what else can I add in here? So I say, hey, you know something? I think I can take properties panel and perhaps add this as a tab over here. So I have now got 4 distinct panels or palettes in one grouping. History and info I will leave alone as individuals, and then I say to myself, hey, you know something? Let's check what else is available. So color is there, swatches are there, which is perfectly fine. Do I want character? Character would refer to text, but we're not dealing with text at this point in time. What else can I take? I kind of like the layer comps, and I will also incorporate actions. So I take actions, and actions is already here, so I don't need to worry about it. Layer comps, it's by itself, so by default it gets added in here. You notice layer comp, and interestingly there's a little thing with notes, so you can actively create notations in here with regards to whatever work you may be doing. I kind of like that, so I'm going to leave this alone, and then I decide, hey, I'm going to take this and tab it directly underneath it. So now this has become a part of the whole thing, and this could be my optimal workspace. But perhaps to start off, I may want to see all the text associated with these icons for the sake of better understanding and knowing. So I'm going to grab it and tab it to the right window, which I can open anytime I want, or I can close it, or I can collapse it in an icon form and still be able to open it. So that's customizing it. So now that we have customized it, you can save this as a workspace for yourself. So to save it, you go to Window. But before we save it, let me quickly explain one more thing. So this window is currently tabbed, and to be able to explain it better, what I'm going to do is I'm also going to quickly open a couple more images so that we can actually play properly. So I come back in here and I'm going to say, yeah, small JPEG. So let's go. So now I have 3 images open, and you can cycle through by clicking on each tab, and each tab gives you the name and the percentage magnification and the color mode, which is RGB, and what bit rate the image is in. Okay. At the same time, if you look at the bottom left of the screen, it shows you 2 bits of information. One is the percentage value, which is the magnification percentage. You can actually click in here and type in whatever percentage magnification you want. So if I want 100%, I typed in 100 and hit enter. So it covers 100% of the space. The other thing that it does is it shows me dimensions. So it's at 21.33 inches by 14.22 at 72 pixels per inch. There's other information in here as well. So you click on the arrow and it shows you what other level of information is available to you over here. You have the ability of separating these documents from a tabbed form, one at a time or all together. So there are multiple ways of doing it. So you can either click on any one tab and simply drag it out and drop it. So now this has become an independent window. You can do that with any one of the documents or all of them one at a time. Okay, so it's a choice that you make. So this is one way, and you can again re-dock everything at the top. So now I have docked it, but now my other images are lost behind it, so I have to go into Window and bring up the other image and then say, hey, let me dock you here, and then go back in here and see which image was it. This is the one, and I dock it. So now I have docked them all back. But there are simpler solutions to this. Why waste so much energy and effort? If you go into Window and you come into Arrange, you can say float all in Windows, which will take all 3 documents and float them independently, like that, right? So, and again, you can go back in Window and Arrange and say consolidate all to tabs, and it'll consolidate all 3 of them in the tabs. Or whichever file is the active file, you go into Window and go to Arrange and then say just float in Window. So as you click on float in Window, just that file becomes a floating document. And there are many reasons why these things are relevant and important. So for the time being, I'm going to consolidate all to tabs. Having done this, next thing that you should understand within the workspace is a couple of other things. So while you're working on a document, you want to save the workspace the way that you have created it, because if you shut it down, you're going to lose it without saving it. So if you go to Window and you go into Workspace, you have a possibility of saying New Workspace. So here you can say, hey, I want this particular workspace, so I'm going to call it my workspace. Okay, and you can delete it or you can add more. That's not a problem. So within this workspace, you have an option. You can see it says panel locations will be saved in this workspace. Keyboard shortcuts, menus, and toolbars are optional. So if you had made any changes to the keyboard shortcuts or the menus or the toolbars, you could simply click on these one at a time, one if you wanted, or all three or two, whatever, and simply say save. So what it'll do is it'll help you save that workspace for all future times until you, for whatever reasons, may have to reinstall, and then you can reinstall that workspace later on. So if what I have done is I've saved the workspace, what if I, for just being difficult, I take this tab out, I take this panel out, and I make it nice and large, and then I take my adjustments panel out, and I also take my layers panel out, and I also take my another one out, and having done that, I say okay, now, oh, I forgot to take out the histogram panel, so let's take this out, and I want to enlarge this, so I'll say okay, give me all channel view, whatever it is, and luminosity. So I have done that. So now I have a total disaster. I can't see the image, everything is spread out, and I need to resolve that. Very simply, all you have to do is go back into Window, as opposed to trying to grab each one individually. Go into Window, go into Workspace, and simply say Reset Workspace. So remember, I had saved it as my workspace, so I click on Reset My Workspace, and guess what? Everything goes back to its default position. And basically, that's the principle of a workspace and saving a customized workspace. Now, there are additional things. Remember, when we were saving the workspace, it was talking about shortcuts and menus and toolbar. So just to kind of leave you with something to mull over, you see these three dotted lines, and we're going to cover this in a separate video. If you keep it clicked, it shows you a bunch of other tools, and at the same time on the top it says Edit Toolbar, and a dialog box to customize the toolbar appears, and you can actively create your own, save the presets, or load any presets, or restore to defaults, or whatever you want. So this is one thing. The other thing is, if you go into Edit, okay, so you have keyboard shortcuts, okay, so you can click on this, and then you have application menus, panel menus, tools, and task spaces, and you can create keyboard shortcuts for each one of these things. That's another one of those wonderful, wonderful things. Then if you come in here and you come to menus, so when you come to menus, once again you have options of, remember, this was available to you before, and there's the keyboard shortcut. So I just took the long route. You could have done it right then and there. And once again, if I click on File, it expands itself, and it says, hey, there's no keyboard shortcut, or there's no particular menu. Do you want to see this? I would love to see it as a red menu. Is there a keyboard shortcut associated with that file? New? Absolutely yes. So there's Command N. If you were on a Windows computer, it'll be Control N. Otherwise, everything that we have done is exactly the same between a Windows platform or a Mac platform. So no changes whatsoever. So we can do a whole lot of customization to Photoshop to suit our purposes, because Photoshop is many things to many different people. I hope to see you again with a few more videos. Take care of yourself, and thank you for watching the video.